What's going on, chicken friends? It's Donna Little from the Coop Scoop, and today I am going to talk about a hot topic. And it's not literally hot because I'm going to talk about winter and chicken keeping and what you need to do to take care of your chickens and to get them through some cold weather. And it is a hot topic. I mean, if you're in any of these chicken groups on Facebook, you know what I'm talking about. Inevitably, every single winter or when it's coming along, people get in and they start saying, I live in Minnesota and I'm really scared. It's my first year having chickens and I'm afraid they're going to get too cold. And you're going to get blasted. So let me just say this. There is no straightforward answer on how to handle winter with chickens because everybody's situation is different. Everybody's breeds of chickens are different. Everybody's coop is different. Everybody's climate is different. So there's so many variables that come into play that I usually just say to anybody that asks, just use common sense. There are definitely some sort of straightforward things that you need to take into consideration on how to keep your coop and run winterized, but other than that, just use your common sense. So I live in the South. I mean, we have a minute of winter every year, so this is not something that I have to really concern myself with. But the big question for everybody is always that lives in a cold climate, should I supplement heat in the coop? And if you get in the groups, your answer is going to be a resounding no. It does not matter, you know, if you have provided your chickens with a cardboard box and all of them are silkies. People are going to go, how do you think chickens survived before people got involved? Well, I'm sorry, but there were not silkies running around in the jungle, okay? So you have to just think about your circumstances. If you do live in a climate that's going to be brutally cold over the winter, and you've gone ahead and bought breeds that you just thought, oh my gosh, I have to have a couple silkies, and look at those little frizzles, they're adorable, and then you start to realize that might not have been my best choice. You may have to do some supplemental heating for birds like that because they cannot handle extreme temperature changes like a lot of breeds can. You don't want to have chickens that are like a silky if you live in Minnesota necessarily, because their feathers are different. It's more like fur. So if their feet get wet and their face gets wet, then it can freeze, and they're not as insulated as regular feathered chickens. So they might not fare as well. Another breed is going to, well, it's not a breed, but the chickens that are the little frizzles and their feathers sort of go out from their body, they're not as insulated. A lot of the tiny little bantam breeds aren't going to fare as well in really extreme cold. So think about that. But if you've already taken the plunge and you have bought some of these breeds and then you go, it's going to be minus 30 degrees in the next couple of months, what have I done? You know, just use common sense and keep them, you're going to want to keep them warmer than you would, you know, your cold hardy breeds. I'll just say that. If you have bought those kind of breeds, then just make sure that you have maybe some of these radiant heat. They have little heat panels that you can buy. Granted, they have to sit close to them, but get a couple of them and, you know, make sure that you've got them close to the roost. There's some that you can hang above the roost, and while it's not going to heat your coop up, it will definitely help get them through a really cold spell. So that is something that you can consider. Your biggest enemy, though, in the winter is going to be moisture, and you are going to want to keep that out of your coop as much as you possibly can. So while I think it sounds counterproductive to a lot of people to have open ventilation in your coop, that is a must, because if it gets moisture starts to build up in there, and you have to, you know, I think a lot of people think, I've got a bug in my face. A lot of people think, well, my coop is, you know, airtight, it's very dry. Your chickens are creating moisture with their breath. They're creating moisture with their poop, you know, and they poop all night long. So you definitely want to have ventilation up top if you have one of those coops that you can't walk in and they're not very tall, and then you definitely want to make sure your roost bars aren't where they're up there in the range where a breeze is going to be coming through and hitting them. Wind, in extreme cold is also your enemy, but you do want to allow the moisture to go out of the coop, and that is going to be what you have to have is the ventilation. So even if you might put plastic over your windows or something just to further insulate them, make sure you leave your ventilation open for them, and that is going to help keep them from getting frostbitten. If you have breeds and you're in extreme cold weather that have the really, really large combs, if you've got leghorns or something like that, then you need to make sure there's going to be enough warmth in there. You can do the deep litter method, and I'm not going to go into all of that, but it is something that will add a little bit of warmth. They are smart enough to like tuck their heads down into their, feathers and stuff like that, and that'll help keep their comb protected a little bit. But if you have gotten some of these breeds, just keep in mind that moisture is going to be what creates frostbite. And I can't tell you how many times I see it. Somebody will say, I got on and asked about, keeping my chickens warm enough, and I really just wanted to bring them into my basement. I don't have a heated basement. And everybody said, no, you don't want to do that. And I didn't. And now my rooster's comb is falling off because of frostbite. Go with your gut. Don't be, I'm going to say foolish, but like if you do have a heated and cooled basement, no, I don't think it's a good idea to bring them in where it's going to be 70 degrees and they're coming from an environment that was 15 below. That's going to be too extreme because you are going to have to put them back outside sooner than later. So I would say, if you need to put them in your garage or something like that where it might be 30 degrees, you don't want those extreme temperature changes. Because of where I live, I'm in Georgia, we have very, very little winter that's extreme. But every now and then, and it's literally only been like twice that I've felt like I needed to put a little supplemental heat in there, and it was for one night, was when we had a 60-degree day, and then that night it was like 13 degrees. And that was such an extreme temperature change that I thought that they might not be able to handle that well. So I did put a heater in there. It was not a heat lamp, though. It was a safer heater, so I was able to put that in there just for the night. And the temperature, literally, I only brought the temperature up to about 35 degrees. So, they weren't, in such shock. Hi, girl. Say hi to the brat. All right, go away, because she's going to rub against this camera and knock it down. I know you. I know what you, I know how you operate. But you basically want to make sure that your coop is nice and ventilated and keeping the moisture out. And then you can also winterize your run. You can put a nice, I don't love straw, but I do use it occasionally. But I would say if you haven't built a coop already and you're just about to get chickens or you haven't done your run, if you live in a really cold climate and you can make a covered run, that is the way to go, because that's going to give your chickens the ability to go outside and get out of the coop, because you don't want to leave them, cooped up in there for an extreme amount of time, 5 or 6 days or something like that, where they can't get out. But if they have an area where they can go and they're not having to walk around on icy snow or something like that, then they're going to really, really enjoy having a run where their, feet can be dry. And, speaking of that, that's another thing. Like, I know a lot of people go, maybe I'll get some Brahmas or something like that in a cold climate. Anything that has feathers on their feet is not necessarily a great idea for a really cold climate either, that gets a lot of snow and ice, because then that'll freeze up on their feathers and that can cause them to end up with frostbite on their toes. And so you definitely don't want that either. But if you have a run, then you can winterize that by putting, some nice sturdy plastic, wrapping it up in plastic, leave some ventilation at the top of it. That'll also help give you almost like a greenhouse effect in there, and it would get you through however many weeks, that you're going to have to deal with extreme weather. And it will keep, when the sun hits it, if the sun comes out, it's going to just sort of like warm it up in there and make it feel nice and toasty for them anyway. But chickens can handle a lot of cold, a lot more than you would think that they could. They can actually handle cold weather better than they can handle really hot weather. So make sure there's not moisture. Do the deep litter method if you want to, and you want to research that. It is something that definitely will keep them a little bit warmer because it creates its own warmth. They're going to snuggle together. They'll keep each other warm. But if you do have some breeds that are just not cold hardy, you do what you feel like you need to do. Just be safe about it. I don't think it's ever a good idea. I hate heat lamps. I do use them occasionally, not out in the coop, but I have used them in the house where I can really keep an eye on things. But they can be very dangerous. I'm sure you know. If you ask about a heat lamp, you're going to also get blasted on any of the chicken pages on Facebook, because people do know how unsafe they are. I mean, you know, it's not even about making sure they're securely, you know, put on something and you've got it tied or with a chain or something like that. You have birds in there that can fly, you know, and one of them might fly into it and break the bulb, and you've got glass everywhere, or one of them can just flap their wings and have a feather land on one and catch your entire coop on fire. So you would, you know, hate to have that happen. So just watch out for their combs, watch out for your little, you know, bantam breeds, the ones that do have feathers on their feet. And if you feel like you need to do something extra for them, do it. You know, don't let somebody guilt you into something, because I hate seeing people that, you know, talk about losing 1 or 2 chickens because they froze to death, or losing their combs because they got frostbite. So hopefully some of this information will help you guys and put your mind at ease. They definitely can handle a lot more cold than we give them credit for, or that we think that they can. Even I, you know, when it's 35 degrees, I'm already going like, you know, are they going to get too cold out there, when I know that they're not. So hopefully this video will help get you guys through, especially if you're new to this. I hope you guys are enjoying our content, and if you are, stick around, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss anything upcoming. Also, we are having a giveaway, so I'll link that video in the comments for you guys, so you can go check that video out and enter our competition for a little. I'm not even going to tell you what it is if you haven't already seen it. So just go check the video out. Have a fantastic day, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.